typecast kind of guy. He's been quite a lot of things, including Scarface. He done a similar thing there. He was all. It's worth pointing out he's in all three RoboCop films, so he's one of the only guys that gets to be in all three of them. But so that's a consistency right there. But yeah, I mean, the way he kind of comes across, it's that smiley, happy from both of them. Like regardless of the news they're reporting on, it's just let's just keep rolling. This is news. This is everything's great. Regardless of anything else, there's a fun part here, Matt, where we get we get that whole thing with the president thing where he's up in like the space shuttle, which is named Star Wars. Yeah. I find that quite funny. Just like, I mean, again, when I watched this for the first time, these were things I didn't really pick up on. I didn't really pay attention to until like maybe the third, fourth time of ever watching these films. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And it's kind of a big deal, but they're kind of just smiling and everything's great in between these. And I find it absolutely fascinating. And then they run this kind of commercial for it where, isn't it the heart thing? And they're kind of building Yamaha. Like you can have Yamaha build your heart if you want. That's kind of fascinating and funny to those things. The way this film sets up, Matt, I know that a lot of people, they know that obviously a few years before this we had Terminator. And I know a lot of people will draw comparisons here, Matt, like Terminator and RoboCop. But realistically, Matt, this satire, this world, it could never ever merge with the likes of the Terminator. This is not set in that kind of world, is it? I think from the bat, he lays that down very, very early on. That we are in a different, completely different world here.
Yeah, and I've heard it said that that minor things in history were maybe changed to lead to this outcome. And that's quite interesting in itself. Like, if a small thing in history were to change, we could have easily ended up with a world like these people are living in.
Sure.
When crime is rampant and there's not much the police can do about it other than like going effective full-on martial law. But I hope it never comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I say, the start, I kind of like the start. I kind of think that it's kind of setting you up. I mean, they talk about a neutron bomb in France that's going down and this whole, worried about the defense and stuff like this. So, and like I say, just pure smiles for it. And then, of course, they talk about the president's first press conference from, a space stock type thing that they call Star Wars, and that goes somewhat wrong when they sort of lose gravity for a little while and all the rest of it. And then, like I say, they cut to this kind of thing, this commercial, which is going to be a common theme through the films. And, of course, Paul Verhoeven, as Matt alluded to earlier, used these in, most of his films. They're going to come up later as well in the likes of Total Recall and Starship Troopers and stuff like that. That was a common theme. And I've got to say, he kind of done a very, very good job with that. And I think it's very well done and it's very, very smart at the time. Now, of course, we then get, Matt, after that, we kind of get our first introduction to this whole OCP corporation, the kind of big kind of corporate thing here that's going to come up quite a lot. And the news that they kind of put it across early on that they're not just a business, Matt, they're not just a corporation, but they actually are taking over the Detroit Police Department because they got so much money, so they can now sort of invest in that, and they're kind of running things there. And we get a shot, of course, of Dick Jones, played by Ronnie Cox, who is the OCP senior vice president, and he kind of comes on and he says that sort of that ridiculous line of if you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen, and he just goes straight off. So it's talking about police and how much the crime is up, and then of course, Matt, we get like a brief shot of Clarence Boddicker, who is named as the unofficial crime boss in old Detroit. And, we kind of get set off the bat that this guy is not good. And, at this point, even Ronnie Cox, Dick Jones, I think is presented in a way where, this guy's a bit of a, just all about the corporate and all the rest of it. Now, the first shots, Matt, it's worth pointing out this film, they shot most of this. I don't know if you saw this on some of your extras, but most of this was actually done in Texas. most of the shooting of this film. They did do some bits from Detroit, but most of it was from Texas because I know that Paul Verhoeven, he just, for some reason, he just liked the skyline better. Thought there was more colour to it and just like shooting in that way, which is kind of interesting, Matt, considering, you know, it's supposed to be Detroit, quite a heavily built up area and all the rest of it, and you wouldn't really think of Texas when you watch the film. So I do think they do a very good job here of you know, making you believe that. And so we get the first shot, Matt, where we get the precinct of, well, I don't know, I think it's called Metro West or whatever, and we kind of see who, I think he's the chief. Is it Chief Reed? I think he's like the head of police. He's kind of coming in for the first time, and you know, we kind of get a scene of him. But we also see here, Matt, how crazy this whole police department is. There are like people being arrested left, right, and centre here. This is a busy area, and then of course we finally get to see Murphy. Which of course is played by Peter Weller here, and it's worth just talking about him quickly because there were a few candidates for this role, but I think, Matt, you would have seen as I did that they were trying to look for somebody that could ideally fit that suit, Matt, and there weren't too many areas they could go. Now there was talk at one point, Matt, and this is kind of surprising, but that Paul Verhoeven was interested even then in Arnold playing this role. I think if that happened, I think that may have been a mistake as far as casting, just because of the whole. He's so kind of, you know, Terminator at this point that putting him in this film would only make him like, you know, a Terminator reject almost here, because people were so keen on Arnold as the Terminator at this point. That's what he was famous for, the line and everything else. Like, would we have seen that ridiculous, you know, I'll be back in RoboCop? Who knows? I'm sure that would have got in there somewhere. How significant would that have been, Matt, if it had been Arnold at this point? Because we know, obviously, Verhoeven does pick Arnold up, of course, for Total Recall. But to put him in this type of film, Matt, as RoboCop, that kind of casting, I'm not saying Arnold, because Arnold did do a very, very good mechanical type robot, but as RoboCop, would people have been able to identify and, you know, distinct the difference? I know it's a completely different suit, but the fact that it's Arnold, Matt, would have been somewhat of a problem, at least in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Arnold, I think of Terminator, and I think that is his serious work. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like if he was put in the RoboCop suit, we'd have the sort of tongue-in-cheek Arnold, you know, and it would have gone down as one of his more cheesy kind of films. I think this film was far too serious for what Arnie could portray. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly difficult to act in a suit such as that, and I think, you know, Peter Weller, he did like an amazing job actually getting emotions through and everything behind the whole mask. I'd say the guy's like, he's like the only actor I could just recognise from a jawline. Yeah,
absolutely. It's quite synonymous, isn't it, with the entire film, that look, that vantage point of him. This is the first chance we get to see Murphy. I like the way they kind of bring him in as the character. I kind of feel like the character arc of this is done nicely. Like, you know, we know enough, but there's not an overkill about where he's come from, who he's about. You know, we just know he's made a transfer. He's down here now because obviously, you know, the proverbial shit has hit the fan. There's a lot of stuff going down, and you know, this is the place of chaos almost. So he's been transferred in, and what's interesting about these opening scenes, and it gets so much attention, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you picked up on it on the commentary, Matt, but a lot of people pick up on, like, my God, women and guys are sharing the same locker room. That's like weird. That doesn't happen. I don't know if you picked up on that on the commentary, but that's kind of like a European kind of thing. And Paul Verhoeven was not afraid to just demonstrate putting that in, that girls and guys would just be getting changed together if they was in the police force. You know, when I first watched this, I didn't even think about it until I started to hear people be like, why are they doing that? That would never happen. When I was watching this, like, even very early on, I really didn't pick up on it all that much. What was that for you, Matt? Did you kind of pay attention to that much, or was you just like me, you're just oblivious and just was going along with it?
No, I've got to say, when I was younger, I just thought it was pretty much normal.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't happening at school, but I thought, is that something adults do? But then, of course, watching it throughout the years, you realise and you kind of think, well, this is set in like an alternative kind of future, and perhaps then, like, the more pressing issue is like crime and where the budget is going, as to whether, like, well, in the police force, as to whether they should actually get their separate change rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we get these like kind of opening shots as we're going in, and we see Murphy. He's getting like all his gear ramped up, and there's like I don't know who the guy is, but he's got the moustache, and he's complaining basically. He's like, we should strike, fuck him. He's like he's one of those guys, and then of course I think the Chief Reed kind of comes in behind him, and he kind of puts it across that cops don't strike and all the rest of it, and there's kind of a harshness to it because they're clearing out a cop that was recently killed, and they're taking out his locker. So it's early on, Matt, that the world we're going into here, this RoboCop, the old Detroit, is a complete and utter crime zone. This is the old Detroit that we're in here, and this is what they're putting. How do you like that as far as what they're trying to present here? Did you? Because I mean, it's a little bit far fetched that it's that bad, but I kind of just ran with this. I kind of like the tone that they give here, and I think they do a pretty decent job of putting across what the hell's going on. I think they do a very good job. It's not overkill, and at the same time, they've done just about enough to give you a taste of what the hell's going on without showing the clips, because the problem is a lot of films, they like to do that. They like to show what's going on, but I think talking about it and kind of hearing guys about it, the news thing, I think that works so much better for you as a viewer just watching it and kind of thinking like, whoa, this is the way they're talking about it, it's kind of better to just imagine how bad it is. What about for you, Matt?
Yeah, I've got to say I agree with that. I mean, the film's only just started, and I'm getting a really good feeling about like how this is actually being presented to me, and just like I feel like I'm easing into this world because I'm hearing about things, I've seen it on the news. I'm getting a real sense of just how bad things are in Detroit at this time.
Yeah. Well, like I say, this film is incredibly... one thing I'm going to say about this film before I go any further, the dialogue in this film is really well done. The script in this is very, very good. It's very on point. There's nothing... Yeah, you're going to hear some gag lines and stupid things like that, but I would say for the most part, I think the script is very, very tight. I think it's well written, and I don't really have too much of it. I think it's very, very intelligently done for the most part, and they do a good job. So yeah, that's the kind of opening scenes that we get. We with everybody changing, and of course all the talk together, and Murphy kind of getting his stuff together. And it's a nice kind of introduction to that world. Of course, after that, Matt, we then get our introduction to Lewis, who is going to be the partner of Murphy in this film. Played by none other than Nancy Allen. It's worth pointing out at this point, Matt, that she was very much not this kind of... the casting of this is very good, because I know they had to get her in last minute, didn't they, Matt? I can't remember who the actual actress was going to be for this. I did not make a note of that, but there was going to be somebody else playing that part, and she kind of got brought in at the end, and she came in, and one of the first things Verhoeven made her do, Matt, was of course, change her hair, cut her hair immediately. He did not want that, the original looking Nancy Allen. But I also think that he may have done that just through a kind of, like, I don't know that he wanted a love connection going on. I don't think he wanted the chemistry type thing going on.
It's interesting you brought this up now, because I was watching like a few documentaries on this, and apparently, like, this is one grad that Verhoeven didn't write the script.
Right.
Because he came in there with his wacky European ideas. His original idea was he looked at the original script and he thought, I can change a few things. He thought, Lewis and Murphy are going to have an affair.
Wow.
He wrote this out, and then he made a whole story for it. He shot a few scenes of it,